right, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good day. I actually put probably more work into this early slate than I usually do. So Bobby's not in today. He's dealing with a family issue that hopefully gets resolved sooner than later. I will do my best to pick up the load, so to speak. And just a little bit of announcement for the evening slate. Rhodey is going to be going live at about 6 o'clock or so. So he's going to be covering that for everybody. I'm going to wait till a few people come so I can finish my food. Nothing really great, actually. What's up, John? So I'm going to handle DraftKings first because that's what I'm played, and I spent a little more time on. There's one pitcher who has really confused me with this slate. I don't know if you can guess who it is, but some of the ownership projections throughout the industry on this pitcher just seemed extremely low. And then I had to update it several times to get to where I really believe he's going to be. Because this is what happened, and this is the way I play. I really try to do a combination of projections and ownership to come up with my cores and my plays. And you know what? It's like garbage in, garbage out. If your assessment of how guys are going to be owned is off, then your whole approach is off. So, like for example, I'll get right to it. When I first ran everything, I was showing Hernandez from Miami to be like 10% owned or something like that, and that's basically a travesty of justice. You know what I mean? Like, there's just no way that he was going to be 10% owned. And if he was going to be 10% owned, I think I would have had 100% of it. That's just kind of the way it was going to be. And it was just one model that was just kind of holding his ownership down a little bit. This is on DraftKings. So I had to bump it up. I just had to. There's just no way that it was going to exist. I mean, he's at home against the freaking Arizona. And he was cheap, so there's just no way that he's going to only be 10%. So that's the first thing that I really struggled with. I don't know why I put so much time into one pitcher, into one player, but that's what I ended up doing. The other thing I would say is that when you do look at the strikeout props, I mean, Verlander and McGill both. I mean, their strikeout props are a full one strikeout higher than everybody else. So they are going to project, very decently. But I would like to say that that neither of them are locks as far as I'm concerned. And again, this is just the way I look at my projections, the way I analyze this stuff. I think that with Verlander at 50% and McGill at 40%, for example, I think they could be faded, and I also think that they could be stacked against. Bobby's not here to yell at me, so you're getting my full opinion here. I do. I really think that's I think that there's options at pitching besides these two guys that make it possible to fade them if you want to. And as usual, if you were going to play them, then you can, then you certainly don't want to play the chalkier stacks. That's my overall view of these things. And to get into it here, um, just looking at pitchers, I do have Verlander as kind of the top guy, but I really honestly have McGill no better than Hernandez. I mean, given the price or anything like that. And so if Hernandez, I manually put him up to 25% ownership. I just did. I'm just telling you that if I ran my models normally, he would show up like 10 or 15, but I just don't see it. So I jammed him up to 25% ownership just to give you guys an opinion of what I thought he should be. So otherwise, I'm telling you, I would have ended up with 100% of it, which would have been okay, but that's just kind of where I'm at. The other guy who I'm actually getting, I mean, showing really just a little bit overowned as far as I'm concerned is Wainwright. So I'm getting like 25 to 30% ownership projections on him, and that to me is kind of a fade. If you want to know the truth, I don't like that. What I would be more inclined to do if you wanted to play different pitchers, which I kind of want to do, is I like Hernandez, but I like Ian Anderson. That I think is kind of I think that's okay. And as you know what else, if you want a really low owned punt, I like Chris Bubick from Kansas City. So that's you want transparency. That's what you're getting from me. Listen, gun to my head again. Who's going to score the most fantasy points? Verlander. Gun to my head. Who's going to score the second most fantasy points? McGill. But given everything else and ownership and things like that, I don't think you need to play both of them. I think you're getting too much ownership by doing that. Considering that the hitting there's no lock hitting environment. I also want to talk about Saberson for just a minute. It's real. I just find the results and the different builds are really interesting. Because sometimes, as I mentioned, if you run my projections through SaberSim and you just run it as with the stock settings, you'll get all kinds of wild leverage. You'll get like whoever the highest owned pitcher is, you'll get like 100% of the hitting against them or something like that. And just when you think that you could predict what they're going to do, yesterday, as you will recall, when I did all these builds for the main slate, it was getting like 100% Washington, right? Even when I jammed in as much ownership fade as possible, I was getting like 93% Washington. And of course, you don't want to do that. So you kind of like force it down a little bit. And then next thing you know, it's 9-0 Washington. Now, again, that doesn't mean Saberson predicted that. I'm just saying that don't begin to think that you know what's going to happen when you put these projections into these builds. I mean, yesterday was a day where you literally could have used the true DFS projections, put it into SaberSim, ran lineups, and made a fortune. Okay, that's not going to happen every night, and I did not take advantage of it myself. I personally manually faded Washington, and I just can tell you that the amount of times that I manually override something like that, my record in doing that is very, very thin. I usually find I would have done better just leaving it alone. That's my comment on that. So just to recap, and then we're going to get into the hitting, is Verlander and McGill are the best plays, but I think that neither of them stand out enough where you have to lock them both in. I would use Hernandez, and I would use Ian Anderson as a pivot, and I would use, as gross as it is, I would use Chris Bubick at 5,300. Now, do you need to use Bubick at 5,300? Maybe not. The other pitchers which are just confusing me, okay, and I really have not come to a to a decision on what I want to do with these guys. One of them, it's very intriguing. It's Michael Clevenger revenge week, right? I mean, he's going back to Cleveland and he hasn't pitched in a while. So that's pretty interesting. The other thing that we have to look at, again, before we get into the hitting, I do want to take a quick look at the weather. Only because I wasn't able to walk to work today because it was drizzling, and I want to see what the current weather projections are for at least this game. Looks like scattered showers. Looks like there's enough to play through. Okay. So I'm not too worried about that. There was another pitching situation that I wanted to look into, but the Clevenger one is the annoying one because I really don't have a handle on what to do with that one. And I don't mean to make it all about the revenge and stuff like that, but it's certainly a compelling storyline to say the least. Okay. So that's the pitching, and again, the only thing I have to come back to is this Clevenger thing. I don't think I'm going to play the other guys, but I'm going to run some builds and see what it's all about. Now, when it comes to stacks, again, I don't mean to be evasive when people say, "What are your favorite stacks?" I hated that. When you would say, when you would ask these things, "Hey, who do you like here?" Well, they say it would depend. Depends on this. Depends on this. Depends on this. Dude, thanks, man. All I want to know is who's going to win. All I want to know is who's the best stack. All I want to know is the best pitcher. And I would tell you if I just didn't know or whatever it is. But the real answer is it does depend on not so much on what's going to happen. Because obviously you don't know what's going to happen, but on what pitchers you're using. Like I will tell you right now who the best overall value on the slate is. As far as I'm concerned, and that would be threefold. That would be Miami, Detroit, or Arizona. Okay, those are, as far as values go, I mean, that's certainly the case. And I will also say that Miami and Detroit also have enough kind of raw upside to make it work. So if you ask me what the best values are, I would say Miami and Detroit. Now, if you ask me who's going to score the most fantasy points, that's not the same answer. That answer to me is Houston. Okay, Houston for me is really is going to be the gun to your head who's going to score the most. But their ownership is going to be really high. So if you're going to play Houston, I would not play them with the, even if you can do it with Verlander and McGill together. At the very least, I would try to do something different. Like, I don't even know if it's enough. Is it enough to play Verlander and one punt? Or do you have to double punt to get different enough to play Houston? I don't know. I honestly don't know. And to be honest with you, Saberson, to kind of help me calculate that a little bit. The other question, the other thing to analyze is, okay, so you tell me the top values are Miami, Detroit, and the top overall, gun to your head stack, who's going to score the most is Houston. There's another one which is interesting. Another team that has some not quite as good value. Well, two of them. One of them is Arizona, and the other one is Atlanta. Okay, so hear me out here. So neither of these are particularly the best values, and neither of them are particularly the best kind of raw points. but they both have some leverage associated with them because Atlanta's going against the chalky pitcher McGill, and Arizona's going to Atlanta's going against the chalky pitcher McGill, and what's his name? The other team I said is going against Arizona's going against chalky Hernandez. So even though those teams do not rate as high as the others, you get a little extra. You get extra leverage by playing those guys. So I think that both those teams are really interesting. And the other one, I mean, as long as we're going to talk about the idea of leverage, I mean, you do have to think about whether you want to play Seattle or not, right? You have Verlander, who's is he Verlander? He's one of the best starting right-handers of all time, I guess, and certainly one of the great fantasy pitchers of all time. And he's going to be the most popular alongside of McGill. And if I'm going to make a case for playing Atlanta, why wouldn't I make a case for playing Seattle? Verlander is great, but you know what? He can give up power. He can give up 3 home runs. I mean, it's very possible. So I definitely feel as though that's something you have to consider. And I will tell you this: when you run the SaberSim builds today, they are politely begging you to jam Seattle. I'm just saying, and that's what you're going to get when you have a very high-owned pitcher that has that can give up some power. So if you're playing multiple lineups, I mean, maybe more than 20, I would certainly consider some leverage here. And this is why, again, I spent just a little more time on this slate than I usually do in general, and certainly more than I always spend on the afternoons. The afternoon slates I'm usually really busy, so I can't really deal with it. But this one I really kind of dug into a little bit. The other thing I want to talk about is some one-offs, because there are some extreme cheapos here. So you have Juan Yepes, who's a flat 2K for St. Louis. So when you see him kind of come up, you'll know why. And this is on DraftKings. You're getting. I guess he's the one I wanted to kind of highlight, actually, because he does rate really, really high. Then you have your normal cheapos like Olivares from Kansas City, Cooper from Miami, Detroit. Varsho still looks good at 3,400, but that Yepes guy is somebody worth noting. Richie is coming in with Demaray as being scratched. Okay, that's good info. I don't know if I'm going to have time to just redo all the projections, though, so you'll just have to manually kind of take him out of your stuff. Hold on, let me see if I had him. Yeah, I do have him in a couple hitting 8, so I do have to fix that. Thank you. And that is actually, if I'm not mistaken, that's 110. All right, so it's not that bad. And Heredia is in. Oh, thanks, Joanne. Oh, I'm glad you did well. That's excellent. Yeah, I'm going to do something with the hockey as well. So Heredia is in. You know what I am going to do? I think I am going to redo these. It's going to take a little while, but I think it's worth it. Maybe at say, well, or you could probably just insert Heredia in for whatever Demaray was going to do. I mean, you don't have to get too fancy about it. I don't think they're going to really change the rest of the lineup, right? They're just going to put Heredia in where Demaray was going to start. I presume that's the case. So that's the one thing you have to do, is you have to insert Heredia in for Demaray if you do get to some Demaray, I think. So let me, for example, let me do this live. Let me share my screen. Share screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just to kind of show you Actually, I'll do. You know, I'll do it from the True DFS site, presuming I'm logged in. I'm logged in. I can't deal with the double two-factor authentication right now. They killed me. Yeah, the admin people. I mean, I love Mark and all them, but they like, Eric, you got to do two-factor authentication. Now I can't log in. Yeah. Okay. Upload. So were you going to use the True DFS projections? That's what we're selecting. And let's build 30 lineups given the default sliders. Yeah, Joanne, me too. I had two of them which were in the top 10 in like the lottery. I needed like a little more juice. I need like one more kind of garbage goal out of Colorado to kind of get there. But yeah, that's good. Over 180. That was really good. Okay. I know they're gonna give me all the Seattle, right? What kind of mood are you in, Saberson? You in the mood? You're gonna let me play the guys I want to play, or you're gonna make me play Seattle? Let's see. This is America. I don't have to play wherever I don't want to play. So what they're giving me is 95% Verlander. And then we'll get to the teams in a minute. They really want me to jam this stuff in. Okay, interesting. They want me to have 90% Verlander, 90% Miguel. So it just goes, shows to go you, right? I spent the first 15 minutes explaining why I don't want to play them both. And even when I put some ownership fade in here, using my own projections, SaberSim builds want me to play almost all of them. So hey, this is the struggle, isn't it? All right, Richie, I'll deal with that kind of one-off question in a minute. Let's take a look and see what kind of teams we get. Okay, so all right, so this will at least make sense. So if in fact it's going to make me jam this stuff in, it's going to be because I'm also getting just a carload of Pittsburgh, which is extraordinarily uncomfortable, right? So you're not getting any of even the good-looking Miami stuff. Not to mention, I mean, you can't get Houston in that. But if you play both, now see, this is what I'll accept. I'll accept playing Verlander, McGill, if these are the types of stacks I'll get. Pitt, Arizona, KC, stuff like that, and that makes sense. So San Diego, I'm not getting too much of, but let me see if I can make a case for it. And now what I also do is I look at the 5-man stacks that they're giving me, and of the 5-man stacks, like Pittsburgh is just loaded here. So when people ask, like, what's your favorite stack? Well, let's see. What's my favorite stack when I'm playing McGill and Verlander? That's a different question, right? Probably Pittsburgh. But let's just say, let's for example, let's go back here, and let's say I was going to X out, let's just say Verlander. I wonder what I would get. X out Verlander, and if I X'd out Verlander, now you get all. That's right. Here comes all the Seattle. Right? You X out Verlander, and it kind of makes sense. Like if Verlander doesn't have a good enough game, it's probably because Seattle got to him. So, okay, so that's one thing you could do. The next thing you could do is, let's say, okay, you didn't want to X out Verlander. Let's say you wanted to X out McGill. So if you X out McGill, then what does your stacks look like? If at all, does that change at all? No, as a matter of fact. Like right now, it's still going to give you a bunch of Pittsburgh. So that's, take that for what it's worth. So the idea is that if you're going to play Verlander, then my favorite stack, according to what I'm doing here, is Pittsburgh or St. Louis, right? And they still want you to play a little bit of Seattle. Interesting. Let's put it back in. Right now, John, you're building lineups in Saberson right now. I manually adjust my max. What would you typically bump them down to? Well, you're okay. I usually don't adjust my max like that. As I mentioned before, I'll usually just roll with it. Again, but that's me. If you don't have that type of risk tolerance, then you could do that. So the question of but keep something in mind, all right? If you adjust your Verlander McGill exposure downward, right? What does that mean? What that means then is that you are then going to be, you know, then your hitting looks a little bit different too, right? Yeah. So Richie, that's the point. I think I don't know what terrible means against lefties or whatever it is. And yeah, I mean the Diamondbacks are rolling them all out there, and that's why Arizona is showing up as a very, very strong stack. Okay, and as you see, that's what I did before. Like my initial builds before I did anything was definitely getting a bunch of Arizona. So I agree with you. I think that and that's what I talked about, before we started doing the SaberSim builds, is that while Arizona doesn't raise the best value or the top upside or anything, I think when you factor in the leverage, I regard Arizona as very similar to the Braves. The one thing that you have to be careful of, Richie, and this applies to both. I mean, this applies to everything. This applies to all DFS. I mean, in everything in life, really. But be careful about double counting things. So what does that mean? So what we're doing is I'm inputting projections into SaberSim, or I'm inputting projections into my sheets, or I'm just staring at them and I'm looking at the numbers and I'm ranking them by a certain metric, right? If I like Arizona based on that, I don't want to then say, not only do I like Arizona based on this, but you know what? Hernandez is bad against lefties, and I'm rolling out 9. Because what that means is that that's already been accounted for in the projections. One of the reasons why they look, not bad is because Hernandez might not be great against lefties, or because Arizona is rolling out 9 lefties. So just be careful, and it's a common thing to do. Like if I'll say, boy, I like Verlander and McGill, and you know what else? You know what else? They have the highest strikeout K prop on the slate. Well, that's why that they're projecting so well, is because they have the highest whatever you call it K prop on the slate. So and I see this all the time. They say, well, Miami looks really, really good, and you know what? They're not only that, but they're in a good park today. Okay, you said the same thing twice, and when you say the same thing twice, you run the risk of counting it twice in your head, and that's just make sure that you don't do that. Okay, if you want to make adjustments. Or if you want to, and this is why it's really funny how we talk about, narratives and things like that. One of the things that is good about talking about narratives is I know I'm not double counting. Like if I say, Clevenger looks really good, and by the way, it's revenge against Cleveland. I know that whatever that is not priced in. Whether it exists or not is another question. Whether it has any value at all is another question. But I promise you that it's not already in the price. So I think that's a very important point. Okay, so what am I actually going to do now that I've went through this? The first thing I want to do is I just want to check this Clevenger business and see if I can't get a little bit of a tighter projection on Clevenger. Ooh, I think I might be able to get it. Let's see. Yep, I'm going to be able to get one. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redo the projections here. I think it is worth it to do that. So if this is not the greatest content in the world while I do this, I apologize, but I think it is worth me doing that, even if I'm doing it live in here and you don't even know what I'm doing. So it's not going to take that long. I'm going to do it for both. I'm doing it for both sites, and then I am going to talk about FanDuel. Sorry, I'm going to do that right now. Well, not right now, but after I do this. We're going to do this, then we're going to rerun it, we're going to post it, and then we're going to see what it looks like. That's okay. And also, unfortunately, when I'm doing this, I can't see the chat. But it's not going to take me, as I said, that long, maybe one more minute. Oops. I didn't screw that up. Okay. One sec. I'm going to fire this up. Then I'm going to do FanDuel. Then I got to save them as the early slate. And that's something, it's a behind the scenes thing, but it's something I have to talk out to myself. Otherwise I will forget. Otherwise they'll show up as a main slate thing. Before I do that, I just want to eyeball them, make sure that they look somewhat normal before I convert them to the early slate. Let's see if I can see Clevenger real quick before I. Yeah, okay. Oh, so the good news is that Clevenger is not popping. As a matter of fact, he's probably a fade. Okay, that makes me feel better. But I'm going to put this up here. Just, I'm going to have to save. I'm going to have to. Hold on. Okay, 1 second. Just a sec. Got plenty of time, right? Oh, it's 12:03 there. Okay. But I'm sorry, I just didn't think, I thought that was worth doing. And it was actually. All right, so we're going to save this as early. I'm going to save this as early stacks. Then we're going to take just another look at it after we upload. FanDuel. I don't know what's going on with this Hernandez ownership. I don't know what to tell you. That's the only problem, is the ownership on Hernandez is going to be off. It just is. I don't know what people are doing over here, but okay, let me just upload it. And then we'll see what it looks like. 12:04? Oh, not a problem. And I got time. I don't have anything till 1. Okay. Just upload this. And done. Okay, so now let's take a look again at what all this looks like given those new numbers with Clevenger. See if it makes a difference. Okay, so actually, let's not do this one. Let's pull up the early one. I almost did it again. And I'll pull the chat back up so you can see you guys. Okay, so it's still the same. Not really getting the Clevenger, and that makes me feel better. Let me see if changes anything on FanDuel. Again, these ownerships are just nutso. Maybe Clevenger on FanDuel. If it's really going to be 2%, which it won't be. But this Hernandez thing is really annoying because they have him at 6%. There's just no possible way that's the case. I just can't imagine it. But hey, that's who I would play, by the way, on FanDuel. If I was playing, I'd probably play Hernandez. Anyway, let me take one more look at the stacks. And it's weird to see if anything changed just because of Clevenger's projection, which I doubt. No, not really. Still Miami, Detroit, Arizona looks good as a pivot. Then Houston with the, you know what I mean, with the lower owned pitchers. And what I'm going to do is just for funsies, I am going to rerun a new. I can't yet actually, because it takes 10 minutes to update this on TrueDFS, right? Is that true? I think that's the case. Let me just see. Like for example, if I click on Clevenger, yeah, I mean it's not even giving me a projection yet. All right, so I got to do it the long way. You guys will be able to do it when it shows up. But the long way is not that hard. Like what you could do, I mean, if you want to do this, let's just say that you're in a situation where you're waiting for projections to update into the SaberSim, but you still want to do it. What you do is you go to the main place, which would be here, and these update immediately. Like once I put this up, this automatically comes up, and you'll see 1204, like it was right up there, and you'll see the Clevenger projection in there. So what you could do is you could just you create the CSV file right here, and then you can go back into the SaberSim piece and upload this and upload what you just saved. And what that'll do is ownership. Make sure we get projections in here. Projections, good. And then it'll replace, I think. Yep. And then it'll replace with what you want. So let's do it again. Let's 30 lineups, same thing. Let's see what we come up with. And this is making no adjustments. Give me a couple of announcements, but as I mentioned earlier, I don't think I'm going to be around for live tonight, so Rhodey's going to take care of that. But I will manage to, I think, update the projections at the very latest, very earliest would be 4. If I could do it later than that, that'd be obviously great. But I will definitely put something in before I leave. So now, what this is having me do is it's interesting. It's not jamming these guys in anymore. Like with the updated projections, I'm actually only getting 60% McGill and only 40% Verlander when it was 95% before, which is very interesting to me. And then I'm getting a decent amount of Ian Anderson, which I like a lot. I'm getting some of this Matt Brash, which is a little, I mean, it's a little annoying, okay? But I know why I'm getting it, right? Why am I getting Matt Brash? Anyone want to guess? Because he's 1% owned against against the best hitting team on the slate, right? So and it's baseball, and if Houston's missing bats, then you're like light years ahead of the field. So I certainly get it. Bubick and getting a little Wainwright. I'm surprised they got any of. And Clevenger, not much. Now, with respect to the stacks, let's see what I'm getting now. See if there's any difference. It really wants me to play basically Seattle all over the place. I presume that means in the 43%. See, check this out. So 56% stack exposure, and not surprisingly, 43% exposure to Verlander. Right. So it's basically saying I want Verlander, and if I don't have Verlander, I want Seattle. Makes sense. I mean, it really does. Do you have to play Seattle? No. I mean, you can just X them out. It's totally fine. You have no problem with that. X them out. But this is leverage. I mean, this is what it looks like. Like, look, for example, just this one lineup over here on the right. Oh, check that out. What it just says. True DFS projections updated. I didn't even know that existed. How good is that? Here, I mean, you get McGill, no Verlander, and you get Bubic with the old Seattle stack with some Pittsburghs and Mets one-offs. You know, this is where everything's under 2% owned pretty much. And this is really the way you win the lottery. I mean, honestly. And then in these lineups with like Verlander, that's when you play in Arizona and stuff like that, in Pittsburgh and stuff like that. So you know, like I said, I mean, this really depends on what types of lineups you're playing. You know, what types of not lineups, what types of tournaments that you're entering. So yeah. And what am I actually going to do? Therein lies an interesting question, right? I just don't know. Am I willing to, do I really want to play 56% Seattle? I might. I really might. But do I want to be kind of a Wimpenstein and just say, okay, I don't want to play 56%. Maybe I'll play 30. Now I wonder if I play 30%, then does that give me now 70? Let's make a SaberSim bet here. If I remember, I was getting 46% or 56%, whatever it was, Seattle. And at the time, I was also getting 44% Verlander. If I manually adjust down Seattle to 30%, do you think that when I tab over to players, it's going to have now given me 70% Verlander? I am going to predict yes. That is what I'm going to predict. Let's just see if that's the case. Nope. Yep. Oh, yep. There it is. 70%. Yep. So that is the lesson here, right? Is that you want to play Verlander, but if you don't, you should probably play Seattle, and that makes sense. So when I did that build, if I didn't want to get as risky with Seattle, now I'm 70% Verlander, 70% McGill. Okay. And quite honestly, this looks like a more reasonable, approach. Okay. But reasonable is relative. You know what I mean? Is it reasonable to reduce risk for the sake of reducing risk? You know what I mean? Remember, whenever you reduce risk, you reduce reward. That's just the way life and investing works. It's just the way it is. Whenever you reduce risk, you by definition reduce the upside of reward. Otherwise, if that weren't the case, then there was a problem with the optimal. And this is where you could use SaberSim and you overlay your risk profile to do it. Like when somebody was saying, "Boy, I don't want to get 100%," that's totally fine. That's totally fine. So let's for now, let's download these. Download them somewhere. I don't know where they are. And this is hey, and you guys, a lot of you guys saying, well, why don't you talk less about plays and talk about your process? This is legitimately as close as I can get to go through exactly. I mean, this is as process as you can get. I mean, really, that's pretty much it. Um, and so, like for now, I mean, so let's just say what I would do. Okay, so if I put some lineups in here, this is the lottery, and then 3 lineups are in this 55. So I'll put this in here. And what I'll do is I will put the highest Saber score rank lineup into the big one, and then I'll just go in and just be. You guys want to know what I do, right? Just because it's the big one, I'm going to go in and manually make sure that this is what I want to do. Do I really want if that lineup is the Seattle lineup, right? Do I really want to play that in the 444? I mean, look, the reality is you probably do, right? And you shouldn't worry about it, right? But everybody, everybody's got a risk tolerance. Hey, I just want to let you guys know. For those of you, there were a couple of you who were asking me about Cleveland being a possible hoodoo stack. I actually did get to a couple of the Clevelands in here. So yeah, that's that. What other questions are there? Are there any other questions? I'm not going to be playing FanDuel, so I'm not going to comment any more on that. Actually, let me just take a quick gander and see what at least the stats would look like over there. So again, Detroit for value, Miami for value. Houston kind of a standout, right? So it's pretty much it's very similar. It's very similar. So BBF, this is what's going to happen. So as you may or may not, Bobby's out for a couple of days at least, I think, and I'm going to be doing a video at very shortly this afternoon, actually, with Kenny, and that's going to be going up. And that's going to be going up on the site forthwith. So you will definitely get that before dinner time, if not before lunchtime, depending on where you are. So yes, I'll do a golf video. I'm also going to do a hockey video today. We're going to keep up the momentum there. We're going to do the exact same process as far as me doing that hockey video, because that seemed to have worked out nicely. And I'm going to put projections up for the NBA and for the main slate. I'm going to wait until the early slate locks, and maybe even a little later than that, before I put up the main slate, just so as to not confuse anybody. And it's possible we don't get an update on projections after I put them up. You know what I mean? It's possible that the latest update you'll get is 4 p.m., which is certainly not ideal, but I encourage you to show up for the live stream where Rhodey's going to be taking care of it, and he's not going to have my projections up. He'll certainly have the Saberson ones to look at. He'll have his own to look up as well, and that's going to be the best we're going to be able to do with that. And then leading into the weekends, more MMA, NASCAR, F1, soccer, LOL coming soon again. So it's going to be tough, but I'm going to try to get to all of it, and that'll do it. So I'm gonna go because I have some stuff I have to do before the golf video. And one last thing for those of you who didn't catch on to this, big day tomorrow. I'm doing a video for the Kentucky Derby, and obviously it's not going to be just the Kentucky Derby. It's going to be the whole card, and it's going to be the Friday card before it. And I'm going to be doing it with Michael Baychak, who he's in our Discord, and he's actually a pretty well-known horse handicapper from New Orleans. He writes for the Times-Picayune, and it should be fun because I guarantee we have 2 different approaches on how to pick stuff, and I can already tell you right now that if the Kentucky Derby itself, I'm going to like at least 3 horses over 30 to 1. It's a wild race where I would say 6 to 7 horses can all win, and 3 of them are going to be 30 to 1, and 3 of them are going to be favorites. And you know how it goes. You'll end up with 2 favorites coming in 1, 2, but maybe not. And that'll do it. So good luck everybody today. Watch for the hockey video. That'll probably become after, maybe before the golf video. I'm not sure. We'll see.